අද්විතීය 200 Mbps ස්පීඩ් එකකින් ශ්‍රී ලංකාවේ වේගවත්ම සහ පුළුල්තම හෝම් බ්‍රෝඩ්බෑන්ඩ් සම්බන්ධතාවය වන SLT මොබිටෙල් දේශීය ෆයිබර් බලවේගය ඔබත් අදම අත්විඳින්න.
හරිම සුදුයි.
Tonight on First at 9, this Wednesday, the 22nd of March 2023. Bailout benefits. The IMF Extended Fund Facility will restore Sri Lanka's international recognition, create opportunities for low-interest credit, restore foreign investor confidence, and lay the foundation for a strong new economy. President Ranil Wickremesinghe emphasizes tabling the IMF report in Parliament.
ජාත්‍යන්ත්‍ර මූල්‍ය අරමුදල විස්තීර්ණ ණය පහසුකම් පිළිබඳ මාර්තු 20 වෙනිදා කාර්ය මණ්ඩලයේ වාර්තාව මම මෙතන සභාගත කරන.
Do not delay. Opposition leader calls for debate on the IMF report, but President insists the House must approve the bailout pact, allowing him to proceed with second-round creditor talks.
There no need for me to be in this house. I have to do other work on the negotiations. But the rest of them are there.
I am very much okay with exchanging ideas with a pro-IMF president.
Alliance Finance මෙතුරු රන්නයි සේවාවෙන් රන් පවුම්කට රුපියල් 1,70,000ක ඉහළ අධිකාරම.
ඔබේ විශ්වාසය දිනු සෙන්සුරයින් දැන් ළඟමැති ෆාමසියෙන් ලබාගත හැක.
From AdaDerana, this is AdaDerana First at 9 with Ndivari Amuwata. Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
And a warm welcome. The IMF bailout package takes centre stage in tonight's news as well. As the agreement was tabled in Parliament today, President Ranil Wickremesinghe highlighted that while the IMF programme is a step towards building Sri Lanka's future for the youth and the upliftment of the country, it would also restore the country's image internationally, especially among creditors. Addressing Parliament today, the head of state further emphasised that the government will be taking steps to pave the way for salary scales and pension schemes to be raised in line with the primary deficit targets. President Wickremesinghe also called on the opposition to join the government's efforts in rebuilding the economy, at least now, as they did not make any contributions in the past. The President also confirmed the receipt of the first tranche through the IMF's EFF facility.
ජාත්‍යන්ත්‍ර මූල්‍ය අරමුදල
I now table in Parliament the IMF staff agreement on the extended fund facility reached on the 20th of March. I will also table the open letters sent to all parties that provided loans to Sri Lanka for the knowledge of this House. With the IMF agreement, we are expected to receive funds amounting to $3 billion in the next 4 years. We have received $330 million as its first tranche. We are expecting rapid credit support of around $7 billion from the World Bank and other parties that extended credit facilities. We are going to commence a new journey. Economic reform should take place during this journey. By 2025, we hope to reduce the primary deficit to 2.3% of the GDP. We plan on increasing the government revenue up to 15% of the GDP by 2026. We took the necessary measures to increase the VAT ratio from 8% to 15%. Measures will be taken to reduce the existing tax exemptions on VAT and to remove the simplified VAT system and expedite its reimbursement. By 2025, steps will be taken to provide an appropriate minimum tax exemption allowance while introducing new taxes such as estate duty and a tax on awards to substitute property tax. We would also pave the way for adjustment in certain salary scales and pension schemes as part of the impact of inflation within the primary deficit targets. The determination of fuel pricing will be free of politicization. Fuel prices will be determined based on the 2018 pricing formula. Measures will also be taken to adjust the tariff on electricity every 6 months to cover the cost after considering the estimated future cost. Large-scale loss-making state ventures, namely the Road Development Authority, Sri Lankan Airlines, Ceylon Petroleum Corporation and the Ceylon Electricity Board will be restructured. Measures will also be taken to exchange the foreign loans obtained on overdue sovereign guarantees mentioned in the balance sheets of the state-owned enterprises as payable debt of the government of Sri Lanka. Inflation will be brought down to between 4% and 6%. When these measures are in progress, the country would have to gradually refrain from printing money. While allowing activities of the forex market to be determined on market criterion, the existing thresholds and guidelines of the market will be relaxed. The central bank currently purchases foreign currency in order to build on the country's foreign reserves. Laws will be drafted against corruption in line with UN conventions. We also expect to include provisions with regard to the acquisition of assets to the legislative framework by March 2024. A new public finance management bill that includes strong fiscal policies will also be drafted. We are currently following a transparent process when holding discussions with our bilateral creditors before making the final decision regarding the conditions of debt repayment. The same procedure will be followed when dealing with other foreign creditors. We expect to restructure the debt in a manner that would be fair for all creditors. Reports on our debt are published frequently. No information about the country's debt is hidden. We are well aware that certain sections of society is facing immense hardships due to the tax burden. We also know the entire society is suffering due to the rate of inflation. However, we cannot distance ourselves from the policies that have already been implemented at this critical juncture. This is the harsh reality. The government and the IMF will review the program every 6 months. The first review will take place in June. We have already focused our attention on amending the existing tax mechanism. The Treasury is currently already in the process of preparing amended proposals. We are discussing with the IMF to include these tax reforms in our plans at the review in June. We hope to schedule the parliamentary debate on the IMF agreement in the 3rd week of April. I request the support of all of you in the House in this regard. Only then can I begin the second round of discussions. I request that all members of Parliament provide us with their suggestions and their support. This is a difficult journey. We should try to become a nation that does not need to take loans. We should complete the payment on all our loans within the next 10 years. My task is to build the future. Therefore, I ask the opposition to join the exercise of building the nation. I request the opposition to extend their support at least now to build the economy and implement the IMF agreement in the country.
මම විපක්ෂයෙන් ඉල්ලා සිටින්නේ දැන්වත් මේ රට ගොඩනැංවීමේ ව්‍යායාමයට එක් වෙන්න කියලා. රටේ ආර්ථික ගොඩනැංවීම සඳහා IMF එකඟතාවය ක්‍රියාත්මක කිරීමට කරුණාකර ඔබේ සහාය දැන්වත් ලබා දෙන්න.
Meanwhile, in response to the President's request for parliamentary approval to the agreement reached with the International Monetary Fund, opposition leader Sajid Premadasa said they are unable to provide such approvals without a proper examination of the contents of the agreement. Now, Premadasa thereby requested a debate on the matter immediately. President Wickremesinghe, however, said second-round talks with bilateral and multilateral creditors on debt restructuring will be affected if Parliament fails to approve the bailout pact.
ගරු ජනාධිපතිතුමා ඉදිරිපත් කරපු කතාව පිළිබඳව පුළුල් පාර්ලිමේන්තු විවාදයකට අවස්ථාව ලබා දෙන්න. අද ඉඳලා වුණත් විවාදයට සූදානම් ආණ්ඩු පක්ෂ. දැන් පටන් ගන්න පුළුවන් අද අපිත් සූදානම් අද ඉඳලා විවාදයට. මේ විවාදය කරන එක අරමුණක් එක්ක දෙපැත්තෙම විවිධ අදහස් ප්‍රකාශ කළා කොහොමද එකට එකතු වෙලා වැඩ කටයුතු කරන්න කියලා. එතකොට මට පුළුවන් ජාතික සභාවත් මුණ ගැහෙන්න.
අපි හැමදේටම විරුද්ධ වුණේ නැහැ. ඒවකට රජයට කිව්වා කරුණාකරලා මේ අවස්ථාවේදී IMF එකත් සමග සාකච්ඡාවකට යන්න. එහෙම වුණොත් රට බංකොලොත් වෙන්නේ නැහැ කියලා. අපේ කරු නායකතුමා කිව්වා වගේ අපිට එකඟ වෙන්න පුළුවන් අවස්ථා කීපයක් මේකේ තියෙනවා. අපි නැහැ කියන්නේ නැහැ.
මම සභාවෙන් ඉල්ලා තියෙනවා IMF සමග ආව එකඟතාවයට අනුමැතිය දෙන්න. අනුමැතිය දෙන්නේ නැත්නම් මට ගිහින් කතා කරන්න බෑ දෙවනි රවුමේ අපේ නායකරුවන් එක්ක. I can only speak with the creditors, both bilateral creditors, multilateral creditors and the private bondholders if the parliament is prepared to accept the IMF report. So I urge this house to accept the report. If you have any issues, you can talk it over with the IMF when they come back. That's all I'm asking. I'm not getting into a debate.
The Honourable President should understand you have presented the report and you have made a presentation in Parliament. Just because you present a statement and a report in Parliament we cannot agree without proper examination and scrutiny and proper parliamentary debate. So what we are proposing is, let's go ahead with the debate, and I would very humbly request Honourable President to remain in Parliament and listen to the progressive and constructive proposals that we have, take cognizance of it, and then at the end of the day we can agree on things that we can agree and we part ways on issues we cannot agree. It's simple as that. It's called practical politics. It's called pragmatism. Let's do that. Yeah. We are not willing, just because the President makes a statement, to approve anything willy-nilly without proper scrutiny and examination.
We start the debate, Honourable Speaker. I think there's enough time till 3rd week of May. And if the National Council wants, 3rd week of April, I will also meet them. I'll have my officials to meet them. But at the end of the day, there's only one issue. Do you approve the report or not? I can't force everyone to accept the report. They may find reasons not to support it. But then I have to know, world has to know where we stand, and we will ask for a vote by name. And that's all. You vote whichever way you want. We are not forcing anyone to say. But if I don't get it, I can't go and continue the second round of negotiation. That's all I have said. I am not trying to force you all. I am only asking you, give me a reply one way or other by the 3rd week of April, whether you want it or not. So you all explain that, and there are no need for me to be in this house. I have to do other work on the negotiations, but the rest of them are there.
Mr. Speaker, I don't think there is a disagreement between the President and those MPs on that side of the aisle and us in the opposition. We are fully equipped to take up the challenge of the government. The debate right now, but I would respectfully request we commence the debate after the questions.
Definitely.
And it was only a humble request for Honourable President to remain, if possible, in Parliament so that he could take due recognition himself, not these bogus representatives of his who were anti-IMF. They were the people who were talking about boycotting IMF. They were the people who were saying IMF එක දේශද්‍රෝහී.
So that's enough. You take it up at the debate. So let's go ahead with the questions.
So I mean,
to start the debate soon.
I am very much okay with exchanging ideas with a pro-IMF president.
Yes, very good.
But the pro-IMF president.
Oh, Sabanaikatuma. That is enough. So you can take it up at the debate.
කොහොම හරි අපි IMF එකෙන් මේ ජයග්‍රහණය ලැබපු එක ගැන මම හිතන්නේ විපක්ෂයේ හැටියට අපි සන්තෝෂ වෙන්න ඕන. මේකට සම්පූර්ණ සහයෝගය මම නම් දෙනවා.
බංකොලොත් භාවයෙන් මිදීමට පුළුවන් වීම ගැන ශ්‍රී ලාංකිකයෙක් විදියට මම අවංකවම සතුටු වෙනවා. ජනාධිපතිතුමා කියනවා ඩොලර් බිලියන 7ක් එතුමා දැන් ණය ගන්න සූදානම් කරලා තියෙනවා කියලා. නමුත් අපි අමතක කරන්න නරකයි මේ ගන්න සෑම ඩොලරයක්ම පොලිය සමග නැවත අපි ගෙවන්න වෙනවා. ඒ නිසා මේ ණය අර්බුදයට පිළිතුර තව තවත් ණය ගැනීම නෙවෙයි.
Now, the Sri Lankan High Commissioner to India, Melinda Muruguda, met with Indian Minister of Finance Nirmala Sitharaman to discuss measures to attract Indian investment to Sri Lanka, enhance bilateral trade and garner further support for Sri Lanka's economic recovery. The meeting in New Delhi was the latest of a series of meetings High Commissioner Muruguda has had with Minister Sitharaman since the November of 2021 on India's economic cooperation and assistance to Sri Lanka.
Sri Lankan High Commissioner to India, Melinda Muruguda, called on Indian Minister of Finance and Corporate Affairs Nirmala Sitharaman in New Delhi yesterday. During discussions, High Commissioner Muruguda thanked the Indian government's efforts towards the realization of the IMF Extended Fund Facility arrangement for Sri Lanka. Minister Sitharaman and High Commissioner Muruguda discussed the way forward in bilateral economic cooperation, ways and means to attract Indian investments to Sri Lanka, enhance bilateral trade, particularly through the Indian rupee trade expansion, and increase in the inflow of Indian tourists to Sri Lanka. The Minister and the High Commissioner agreed that these measures could form part of Sri Lanka's economic recovery.
The Teachers and Principals Trade Union protest heats up as another group demonstrates against the trade union action. Details after this break.
ගොඩමඩ පෙරලි කරන බලපුළුවන් කාරයා මහින්ද්‍රා යුවෝ ටීමෝ වෙතින්.
Now, members of several trade unions affiliated to the education sector staged a demonstration in front of the Fort Railway Station today against the government's move to dissolve the Teachers' Transfer Board of the Education Ministry.
Members of several teacher principal trade unions gathered in front of the Fort railway station this morning, demanding the immediate implementation of the national school teacher transfer process and to protest against the dissolution of the teacher transfer board. The demonstration was staged while a court order was issued by the Colombo Fort Magistrates Court against the protest march. The court order was issued preventing teacher principal trade union leaders and their members from entering several locations in Colombo, including the Colombo Fort railway station. Police said that violating the relevant court order will be deemed a punishable offence under Section 185 of the Penal Code of Sri Lanka. However, representatives of the teachers and principals trade unions staged their demonstration in front of the Fort railway station. Meanwhile, another protest was staged by an organisation for protecting the future of the children. The demonstration was organised at the same location to oppose the teacher principal trade union action. Later, a tense situation arose between the two groups during demonstrations. The protesters dispersed shortly after.
Welcome back. We take you to your business news. The Sri Lankan rupee appreciated against the US dollar by 4 rupees and 24 cents today. The buying rate was at 312 rupees and 61 cents per US dollar, while the selling rate was recorded at 330 rupees and 16 cents. Analysts believe that the reason for the rupee appreciation could be attributed to the decreased dollar inflows to the country, which amount to 30 billion rupees for the month, and the increased dollar to rupee conversions.
With the IMF coming in, and yesterday we saw the board level approval also being obtained. So, and also if you take 22nd of March, which is today, is the day that the first tranche of US dollars $333 billion was released. With this, dollar inflow could be one of the major reasons for the currency to appreciate. If you remember, at the start of the month, we saw a significant amount of appreciation with the announcement of a potential IMF deal, and the IMF coming on the 20th being announced at the start of the month, saw a significant amount of inflows coming into the system, and a lot of locals converting their dollars into rupees, and even corporates taking a view to convert their dollars into rupees has been a major situation that has occurred in the recent past. And with this massive amount of conversions suddenly happening, we've seen a significant appreciation in the currency. So with that, what we've noted is that we've seen a lot of foreign inflows coming into the stock market and also the government securities markets, that is the bills and bonds market. We've seen a significant amount of inflows, so 67 billion rupees of inflows have so far come into the system, or the foreign holding has increased up to 67 billion rupees. So overall, we've seen approximately about 30 billion rupees coming in within this month. And that is a positive sign. And also even in the stock market, we are seeing some reactivation. We are seeing foreigners slowly coming back into the market.
Now, the Sri Lankan shares closed lower for a second straight session today, dragged down by losses in energy stocks. The all-share price index closed 0.81% lower at 9,527.05. The more liquid S&P SL20 index ended at 2,768.27, following a 1.16% loss. The trading volume for the ASPI fell to about 70 million shares, from 78.9 million in the previous session. Market turnover fell to 1.51 billion rupees. Telecommunication services sector was the top contributor to market turnover, while diversified financials was the second highest. Foreign investors were net buyers in the equity market, purchasing stocks worth 58.7 million rupees, while domestic investors were net sellers, offloading 1.49 billion rupees worth of shares. Here's a look at how the Sri Lankan rupee traded against other major currencies during the world. In international business and markets, British inflation unexpectedly rose to 10.4% in February, pushed up by higher food and drink prices, which is likely to prompt the Bank of England to raise interest rates tomorrow. The figures, including increase in underlying inflation measures that the Bank of England closely monitors, are likely to bolster concerns of policymakers who worry what inflation will be slow to fall even after 10 straight rate hikes. Investors had been split on whether the central bank would pause that run after the recent upheaval in the global banking sector. But financial markets today fully priced in a quarter-point increase to 4.25%. The sterling, meanwhile, rose against the dollar and the euro after the data was published, and two-year British government bond yields, which are sensitive to speculation about interest rates, jumped. The increase in inflation contrasted with a fall in the US CPI rate to 6% in the 12 months to February. Eurozone inflation also eased last month to 8.5%, but underlying price growth continued to accelerate. Overall inflation for food and non-alcoholic drinks rose to 18%, the highest since 1977, reflecting cold weather in southern Europe and North Africa, as well as reduced production from greenhouses in northern Europe that face high energy bills. And that's all from us. Good night.